So we're here with Madison Rice, aka Rice Bowl. I'm Dane Miller, owner of Garage Strength, and we're gonna go over the 5 best glute exercises that we use for sports performance and bodybuilding. But first, so the first exercise that I would say is the best, not only for developing the glutes from a bodybuilding perspective, but also from a functional sports performance perspective, is the single leg squat. So what Madison's gonna do, she's gonna put this bar on her back, and we use a single leg foam roll here, and then we use a target for our back knee. And so if we can get her foot about 6 to 10 inches in front of that pad, and this is going to develop a lot of unilateral strength so that she's, you can see she's a little shaky here, so that she's got to get a lot more stability there. And that's going to come from the glute med and from the max. And so the goal here is that we're going to drive that left knee straight to the pad and then come back up. And so if we're looking at it from the side, we're going to be able to see with Madison that her butt is lengthening entirely. And if you can think of a muscle, you know, as soon as that muscle lengthens, that's when it really will start to recruit a whole bunch of high threshold motor units, and then that's going to lead to a whole bunch of strength gains. So I like to use this all the time with my football players, with my wrestlers, with my field hockey players, anybody along those lines. Madison, you can just keep going.
Oh, okay, cool.
Let's get like a set of 15 going while I'll just talk as long as possible so that you're getting killed by this. But also from a bodybuilding perspective, what I really like to see is this. You can play around with the depth of your front foot and really target positions of your leg depending upon weak points in development, and you'll really start to be able to see that hamstring sweep where the hamstring inserts right below the glute here. So it's really good for developing your whole entire posterior chain. But from a sports performance perspective, I think that this, along with back squats, is the #1 leg strengthening exercise that we use at Garage Strength. So loading wise with the single leg squat, you can use the single leg squat for massive strength gains. So if you're working more in the realm of sports performance, you can hit it with like 4 sets of 3 on each leg, and then do a drop set where you might hit a set of 8 on each leg. If you're targeting the glutes and the hamstrings more from a bodybuilding perspective, you might sit there and say, oh, let's do like 5 sets of 12 on each leg, and with a shorter amount of rest period. But that's the versatility of the exercise, that you can use it in multiple different rep ranges for different goals and different targets. The second exercise we're going into is the overhead sliding lunge. So this is going to be even more stability based because you're putting the load overhead, and then we're going to be sliding back. We got these sweet furniture sliders on Amazon for like $7. And what I want to see from Madison now, she's going to put the 10K plate overhead. She's going to squeeze her upper back. So now that she's a professional weightlifter, she's going to start to use those traps a little bit more. And we're going to try and see if she can push that back leg back as far as she can while holding good balance, and then drag that forward. So this is going to be a little similar to the single leg squat, where she's going to really lengthen her glutes and her hammies, and then bring that back in. And this is a movement that's perfect for finishing the workout, where it's like, hey, let's just kill them. Let's kill the hammies. Let's kill the glutes. Something that's really effective from a bodybuilding perspective to finish off that training session with a huge butt pump, that we'll call it. That's the scientific term, the butt pump. So getting killed by these, focus on contracting in the hammies and the glutes as you bring that back leg up underneath the load, and squeeze at the top even when you bring that back leg up next to the front foot. Next exercise we're gonna get into is the curtsy step up. So the curtsy step up is awesome because you can vary the amount of reps that you're gonna be doing. You can vary the height of the box. You can vary the eccentric tempo that you're gonna be working in, and you can really cater that towards the athlete, whether it's bodybuilding or in sports performance, based off of where their weak points are. So a box right like this is just 12 to 14 inches. We're gonna be looking at something that's gonna target the glutes and the quads. And if we raise that box up just a little bit more, where we could get an 18 to 24 inch box, now all of a sudden we're really, really hammering the glutes. And so this is a movement that when you're controlling that eccentric portion, you're really gonna start to feel that in the outside of your glute, and then that's gonna, on the concentric part, you're gonna start to trigger everything and wake everything back up. And so this is not just a great exercise for bodybuilding, but if we're talking about football players or a soccer player that's looking to juke somebody and they have to cut, this is an exercise that's really gonna help them plant on that outside leg and bring everything back inside. All the rage in the modern fitness world, we got the glute bridge. So I love the glute bridge. I still don't think it's as effective at developing glutes as well as the single leg squats, the first exercise in the video, but it is based off of scientific research in comparison to front squats, deadlifts, and back squats. You'll get more EMG activity from a glute bridge than anything else. So Madison's gonna show us a really perfect example of how to perfect the glute bridge, and this is gonna be able to teach her a really good job of hip extension. And so I want her to think about pushing through those heels and then fully extending the hip. And once those hips come up top, the butt, especially thinking about the glute max covering the entire back side of the hip girdle, will extend that hip forward and coordinating those hamstrings with the glutes as the bar gets to the top. And so this is something that you can really, really load pretty heavy. You could load up to 405, 500 pounds if you're a normal individual male that lifts on a regular basis. I'm sure Madison could get up to 225 pounds plus. And what that ends up doing is that gets a whole bunch of activity out of the posterior chain. And you can see that then if you have somebody in weightlifting or you have somebody who might struggle to make contact when they're pulling a bar, the glute bridge is a great assistance exercise to teach them how to extend their hips a little bit stronger in the finish of the clean or of the snatch. Now, from a bodybuilding perspective, I like to use the glute bridge where we'll go really, really heavy and do burnout sets of 30, 35 reps, and then we'll drop the bar, push the bar forward. We might do single leg glute bridge, and then we might do single leg glute bridge to the toe to try and really focus on extending with the quads as well as with the glutes. So there's a whole bunch of different variations. Classic barbell glute bridge is one of the best movements that you can use to really stimulate the glute growth. Okay, so Madison's gonna change that foot position, and just by changing her foot position, we can change the targeted area of what we're working towards. So by angling her feet to the outside, we're gonna start to work more on the glute med, glute minimus, and she's still gonna be doing the exact same exercise, just the foot positions change. This is something where you can really hammer some big weights with the normal standard foot position of the glute bridge with those heels down, take the weight off, and then now you can target the outside of the glutes by just altering that foot position. So it's a cool little trick that you can do to really start to feel that outside external part of the glute. So the ultimate unifier of the posterior chain is the KANG squat. So KANG squat is something that we typically will do at the end of a workout where you want to just really light somebody's entire back, hamstrings, and glutes light them up big time. So what I want Madison to do when she's demonstrating is, one, when she's sitting at the top of the bar on her back, I want her to think about her traps and her shoulders retracting, and then think about hip extension, so the glutes starting to fire right away. And what's gonna end up happening is when they start to fire right away, she's gonna come forward with a slight knee bend, and that's gonna load her lower back, load her glutes, and load her hamstrings. And I even want it to be where there's a target point, your insertion point where your hamstrings do light up into your glutes. And when you come forward in that good morning position, you should be able to feel right in through here where your glutes connect into your hamstrings. You're gonna come forward, and then we're gonna come down into the bottom of a squat, and that's gonna engage our quads, and then we're gonna come back up to that good morning position. Now we're back into the hip extension position at the top. So it's good morning, squat, back to the good morning, into the hip extension. So you're gonna unify and coordinate that entire posterior chain to fire together so that your glutes really learn how to work with your hamstrings and with your lower back. So this is really great if, again, if we've got somebody who's an Olympic weightlifter or a football player, somebody that cannot, they struggle to make contact with the bar, but it's also something that's really good for bodybuilding because they're gonna be under tension and we're gonna be targeting a whole bunch of different muscles from different angles. So great exercise from both of the two realms of fitness, of training, and Madison shows us that perfect KANG squat. Back up, good. It's like when Madison comes back through at the top, those glutes will fire and bring that upper body back through, so it's coordinating the glutes with those hamstrings on the finish. There's a lot of time under tension. And on top of that, if you see, even just from this side angle, how her knees are back over her heels, that's similar to the position we're gonna get into if we're Olympic weightlifting, if we're doing any snatches or any cleans. So it's really educating the body on how to move properly for that specific sport.